call the meeting to order for March 8th City Council meeting. And we have one member that's on Zoom tonight, so we want to verify that she can hear us, and we can also hear you, and that is Deanna?
I can hear you, okay.
Okay, good. Okay, would you call roll, please?
Miller, Williams, Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes. Okay. We need to have the minutes approved. Do I have a motion for that?
I have a motion, we approve the minutes.
We approved February 22nd, 2021 regular session minutes.
A second.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the minutes. Call the roll, please.
Williams, Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes. Okay, motion approved. Now, what we have next on our agenda is a public hearing for stormwater management plan. And may I have a motion that we enter the public hearing, please?
I make a motion that we move.
You open the public hearing.
Second.
We've had a motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Slagle, I'm going to turn it on over to you then.
Yes, Your Honor. As a community that has a regulated stormwater system by the Department of Natural Resources, there are times that we have to make revisions to the plan and certainly notify the public in regard to what's in the plan for public education purposes. So tonight, we're holding a public hearing to get additional input on the plan and to cover the public hearing and some of the details. Drew Williford, our staff engineer.
Good evening, Council. Missouri Department of Natural Resources is in the process of updating their stormwater permit statewide. This new permit will cover the years of 2021 through 2026. And as part of that update process, we're required to update our stormwater management plan. This covers all of the different details for how our city will meet the permit requirements and handle stormwater quality measures for ensuring environmentally safe streams, lakes, prevent stormwater runoff issues. And so what this public hearing is meant to do is conduct any kind of public input. We're trying our best to involve the public with this matter, as it is a matter that involves every person in the city. And we've included a location on our website to also submit any kind of questions, concerns, thoughts. As of this time, we have not received any from the public. So at this point, be happy to take any questions that the council or public may have.
Drew, you may want to comment about where to find the plan and so on the website if anybody wants to look at it.
Absolutely. The stormwater plan can be found under the city's stormwater page. So if you are going to mexicomissouri.net and you hover over government, you should be able to see on the very far right, stormwater management practices. That is the link where you will find the plan at. Both the plan and the permit are available for review. And there's also a newly created form where you can submit questions or concerns online. So you're also welcome to submit an email directly to the engineering department, which email address is also at that link, or call. Any of those options are quite available.
What's the purpose, why is Missouri updating their permits? Do they do this every so often, or is something happening in the state of Missouri where they need to do this?
A little bit of both. They do it every so often. They issue permits for a set amount of years, and a lot of times it's 5 years, for example. But also EPA came out with a new rule. It's called the remand rule. Put additional criteria or perhaps emphasis on certain parts of the plan. And so in response, DNR, with the new plan coming out, is also addressing those items.
Okay, thank you.
So this public hearing, is this something we just do every so often, and it's not a matter, a yearly sort of?
It's not required yearly, no. Technically, since we allow public comments at the end of each council meeting, citizens are welcome to bring any stormwater concerns which would relate to this. Anytime that we do update our stormwater management plan, which would most likely be anytime the permit is updated, then we do have to have a hearing. That's a requirement.
All right, any other comments?
Allow the public if they have any questions.
Yeah, anybody in the audience? Okay, do I have a motion then to close our public hearing?
Make a motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion to close it, first, and all those in favor,
Call the roll.
did you say something else?
Yes, I said move to close the public.
Okay.
Already, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, move to close to the public. Okay, motion to close to the public, okay. Roll call.
Williams?
Yes.
Hay?
Yes.
Shivers?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes. Okay, now we need a motion to go to back to regular session. We
Just
do
go
not.
right on the resolutions.
Just go to the...
Let's go to the
Go to the
resolution.
next resolution next time.
Okay, our first resolution is regarding the proposed pretreatment program allocation in the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Slagle.
Okay, this resolution, Resolution 2021-09, resolution of the City of Mexico, Missouri supporting submission of the proposed pretreatment program modifications in the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. Again, as a community that we have a wastewater permit, discharge permit. We also have, and are regulated, that we also have industrial pretreatment program and permits with industries that put waste to our system. And so therefore, every once in a while, again, we have to make changes to the plan and adjust. And so to cover the changes and what is being proposed under this amendment, Kenzie Russell.
First, just to clarify, this is a resolution of support to the program. It doesn't change the program at this point in time. The changes are proposed. They're in the process of being reviewed by DNR. We'll get their comments back, make whatever changes or adjustments might be necessary. Then that will come to the council to basically amend our sewer use ordinance. This is all being triggered by two things. One is the need for us to renew our wastewater treatment permit, which is the general permit that we operate under, and the other is by the closing of Teva. Teva is one of the significant industries that had pretreatment program. Anytime that change occurs, we have to adjust the load limits, the allocation of waste parameters that is given to each of the industries with their individual permits. And so those are the two things that are prompting the changes to our program. The changes really consist of two things, and I've provided a handout, I think, to each of the council members, and Marcy has copies of it for those members who are absent as well. That kind of provides an outline of the pretreatment program, what it is, providing legal authority, an enforcement response plan, local limit calculations, procedures, funding and support, and that sort of thing. The changes are fairly minor. We've had to add some things to our enforcement response plan, and we are shifting our local limits from concentration type limits. If you go back to your chemistry classes, to mass load limits. In other words, the actual weights of material materials that can be discharged per unit weight of flow of liquid that they discharge. That's kind of a technical thing, but that will also reallocate those load limits. We will then need to reissue new permits to each of our industries after all of this is put in place. So we are recommending that the council support the program that we have in place and support the changes. Those like I say, are primarily the enforcement response plan and the load limits. There are a few other minor cleanup items in language that are included with the draft of the ordinance that we've sent to DNR. Most of this comes about through changes to EPA rules and DNR rules. We do fall under what's known as the streamlining portion of the rule, which gives us a little bit more flexibility than if DNR dictated everything down the line. So our recommendation is to read and pass the resolution.
So, just to make it a little more clear, so when you say TEVA's been essentially, they're no longer in operation, could you be more specific about how that changes this with regard to them?
There are 6 significant industries. If we had 60 units of wastewater to allocate, we could give each of them 10. But Teva, for example, discharged some pretty heavy weight chemicals, and so we wanted to have a little tighter control there. We also want to keep a little bit in reserve for economic development, expansion, for instance, Spartan expansion, and going to the mass load limits helps us do that. So Spartan, for instance, may get 15 instead of 10 units, and because Teva is stopping production, those 10 can be reallocated and used, or they can be held as a reserve, if you will. Crown Linen maybe has a lot of biological oxygen demand, but they don't have a chemical like toluene that Teva had. And so we have to look at each individual industry and allocate what our treatment plant capacity is to them, and then we require them to pre-treat to reduce. So, for instance, the toluene at Teva, they had to remove that entirely because our treatment system would not mitigate that. So they had to take that out entirely before they discharged to us.
What toluene is. We'll have a chemical discussion later. Okay.
How many companies actually do pre-treat here?
We had 7 with Teva, so without that, there would be 6.
There's 6. And I know I asked before, but I mean, Teva was probably, would you say they're probably one of the heavier users of wastewater? Or?
In terms of difficult chemicals, yes. In terms of total flow, no, not necessarily. Cerro Copper, for instance, is one of our industries. They do a batch discharge. It's very small flow amount. Copper is a regulated chemical, so theirs is a relatively easy discharge and all to handle, relatively easy pretreatment.
I was just asking because my concern was, going forward, if, with put less demand on our sewage plant without Teva here, and then how that would look going forward as far as cost, distributing what we were getting money-wise from Teva, how that's going to work going forward, how much they really paid, and, because I know we've got bonds and we,
Of course, the the sewer charge isn't changed by the pretreatment program at all.
No, yeah.
That's related to the flow, and yes, with the reduced flow, that does reduce revenue. We're certainly hopeful that other things will pick up that slack in terms of the revenue side for the wastewater fund.
I have a question, it's a little more general, not just about Teva. When we consider industries that come to Mexico, and occasionally those might be some sort of producer of chemicals or waste or something, do we consider that, I assume, when anybody applies or wants to come here, we have to take that into consideration about what we can deal with as far as what they're disposing of, right?
Yes. When Russell gets an inquiry, usually there is information there on how much flow and what kind of discharge that they have. We can then look at that and say, yes, they must pre-treat, or yes, it is within the parameters that our plant can handle. Maybe all they need to do is filter solids out, but depending on what it is. A few years ago, we had an inquiry from a company that was going to recycle plastic food containers. When they wash those containers, you get a high organic BOD load. They were going to have to do some pre-treatment to reduce that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to read the bill number 2021?
I move for reading of bill number 2021-09.
Second.
We've got the motion and the second. All those in favor, excuse me. Marcy, can you read the roll, please?
Williams.
Yes.
Hay.
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Bill number 2021-09, a resolution of the City of Mexico, Missouri, supporting submission of a proposal pretreatment program modification to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. I move for passage of bill number 2021-09.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the passage of bill number 2021-09. Marcy?
Williams.
Yes.
Hay.
Yes.
Shivers.
Yes.
Yes.
Briggs.
Thanks, motion passed. Moving on to bill number 2021-10, a resolution adopting residential refuge rates. We've talked about this before. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor. What we have in this resolution is adopting the residential refuse rates covering the next year. As part of it, our contract adjustment with Danes happens every April, so this is obviously why we changed the rates this time of year. To cover the details of what goes into the rates and what's being proposed, Roger Haynes.
Good evening, Council. In April of 2014, the City of Mexico began a 10-year residential sanitation services contract with Danes Waste Disposal. The contract includes annual pricing adjustments that are set to take place April 1st of each year. Staff has taken into account consideration residential unit pricing with the services contract, along with other operating expenses related to sanitation services provided by the city. In summary, the anticipated expenses for the sanitation department for the next 12 months beginning April 1, 2021, followed by a fee adjustment calculation, has provided for council's review. Please note that anticipated costs associated with the recycling, household hazardous waste collection, and part of brush yard operations are also included within the user fee analysis. As depicted in this year's analysis, the sanitation fund annual operation cost, net of special pickup fees and investment income, is estimated to be $648,020. That annual estimate, divided by 4,330 residential accounts, equates to $149.66 per year per account. We take that amount, the $149.66, and divide it by the 12-month cycle to come up with $12.47 per month per residential unit. The $12.47 per month will represent the base monthly fee for sanitation services. Last year's base rate was $12.13, equating to a base rate adjustment of approximately 2.8% comparing the 2 years. In addition to the base rate for services, a fuel cost adjustment is made part of the monthly service cost in result of the terms with our contract with Danes Waste Disposal Incorporated. Therefore, staff recommends that council proceed with reading by title only and passage of the attached resolution setting a monthly base rate for sanitation services in the amount of $12.47 with a fuel cost adjusted rate cap of $13.32 for the 12-month period beginning April 1, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. In order to hit the fuel cost adjusted rate cap, diesel fuel would have to hit $6.45 per gallon. I've also provided for council review a phone survey taken of 15 surrounding communities showing that our pricing for our residential services fares well compared to the average of the 15 communities surveyed. Again, our base rate was $12.47. The average of those 15 communities surveyed was $15.19. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
That includes the adjustment we approved for when Danes came to us and said that they would cost more?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
That's a big portion of this.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
There's nothing new in here that we haven't already really discussed
Correct.
previously. Okay. Any other comments? Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to read bill number 2020.
Bill number 2021-10, a resolution adopting residential refuse rates covering anticipated costs of sanitation services beginning April 1st, 2021.
Need a second.
Second.
He did the second. Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number 2021-10, a resolution adopting residential refuse rates covering sanitation services beginning April 1st, 2021. Move for passage of bill number 2021-10.
There's been a motion to pass bill number 2021-10.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Yes.
Briggs,
Okay. Now we're bill number 2021-11, a resolution about the airport. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, this resolution is to execute a professional services contract with Crawford, Murphy & Tilley for airport consulting services. As council knows, that Crawford, Murphy & Tilley has been our consulting engineer for some time at the airport, but as a part of our process in looking for services, we do go out and revisit and request qualifications, and we've done that, and so it's time to renew the contract. And to cover the details, Russell Runge.
Evening, Council. As Bruce mentioned, in the past we've used Crawford, Murphy & Tilley for their consulting services. This would authorize the city manager to enter into that contract. It's redone every 5 years. We had two individuals, one besides Crawford, Murphy & Tilley. Kenzie Russell and I reviewed those, and we decided that the best at this time would be Crawford, Murphy & Tilley to continue with their services. Some of the things that we'll be trying to address within the next 5 years would be to displace the runway 624 threshold 200 feet, joint resealing, repair the weather system road, access road, widen the 18-36, the longer runway. Some of these things are things that FAA would require, and others are lower on the priority list, like the fencing. Some of the planning things that we'll have to have done were the airport geographic information system flown for instrument approach, and different environmental actions documentation. Potential land acquisition if it's necessary. We obviously advertised appropriately, reviewed those applications, as I said, and did put them in the proper advertising through FAA as well. Staff recommends the council proceed with reading and passage of the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into this agreement.
So what we're approving is just engineering consultant. And
Correct.
The rest of the stuff will come
Yep.
sooner or later.
Yep, that's correct.
I move for the reading of bill number 2021-11.
Second.
I have a motion to read bill number 2021-11 and seconded. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number
2021-11, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional service contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley Incorporated for airport consulting services. I move for passage. Bill number 2021.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
I did.
Who moved the motion?
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes. Okay.
We're good.
We're good, okay.
Next one.
Next one is
Ordinance.
claims, okay.
No, turn the page.
Oh, ordinance.
Number 6.
2 readings on this, I'll just turn the page. Ordinance number 2021-12, this is an ordinance and it takes 2 readings to pass. So, Mr. Slater.
Yes, Your Honor. This ordinance is with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, and we did receive notice of that we would be eligible for some CARES grant funds through the Department of Transportation, and so this is non-matching funds that we can get to help at the airport, and we have to agree to this, so this is an application to cover the details. Russell Lunch.
Yes, as Bruce said, we've received these funds. We need to make sure that it's done appropriately to be able to receive these $13,000. And it's for expenses incurred between March 1 and September 30th, 2021. The grant does not require local match, as Bruce mentioned, and staff does recommend the council proceed with the 2 readings by title only and passage of the attached ordinance.
Did we apply for this, or they just give it?
They provided it to us. We just have to go through the hoops to get to it.
It kind of just gave it to us.
Okay.
So as long as we have the expenses, which we do, so we'll take the money.
No, yeah. Interesting.
We have a motion for first reading on bill number 2021-12.
I move for the first reading of bill number 2021-12.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bill number 2021-12, ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission application for federal/state assistance in the airport coronavirus response grant program for the use of the Mexico Memorial Airport. I motion for the second reading of bill number 2021-12.
Second.
I haven't been, moved for a second reading and second, roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Second reading, bill number 2021-12, ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission application for federal/state assistance in the airport coronavirus response grant program for use at the Mexico Memorial Airport. I move for passage of bill number 2021-12.
Second.
Been moved in second for passage of bill number 2021-12. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes. Okay, and we move on to, I guess that's all we have with the resolutions. Okay, claims.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
I have a motion to pay the bills, seconded, and roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes. Those will be paid, good. Okay, we're getting down to the end of this end, and we now have time for council comments. Hey, Anna, you want to start?
Start with me. First, thank you, Ms. Briggs, for carrying on and for our ability to do this virtually. Times have definitely changed. I just want to thank everyone who came out to Morning Life Saving Ministries gallery walk. A special shout out to our Heart Career Center who put together the displays for us and grew up the pictures, and Carly and her crew at Bedmore, Carly Azell, Bedmore and her students really did a wonderful job of coming out and assisting with that. So if you missed it, treat from what I could see on Facebook Live. Just reminding, in another month we'll have elections, and reminding people to pay attention and get out and vote.
Right. Thank you. Steve, do you have a question or anything?
I wish Dr. Shivers a quick recovery on her knee, and I look forward to seeing her jogging our beautiful streets when it's all healed and everything. And just beautiful weather. It's great to see everybody out. Enjoying the city, and just a lot different weather than the last time we met, and had a great had a great week last week at the high school, with the basketball tournament and seeing all the people out, and you don't really notice how you miss it until you get to see it again, and the community get together, and the boys got the win, and we'll play tomorrow, which is great, and the girls came up a little bit short, but they battled, and so I think both teams have a bright future, next year. So look forward to that, and hopefully the weather stays this way for track practice and everything else going on in the city.
Mr. Williams.
I would say, first of all, sorry I was a couple minutes late, because, we're talking about technology when my son's quiz bowl ran a little late because they were having technology issues. So, technology is great when it works. So there's that. Second, I'd like to, not only to Tiana and you, Ms. Briggs, but happy National Women's Empowerment Day, you women, and as well as the women who work for us for the city, like the chief and all that. So I appreciate the hard work you guys all put in, and so. Also, I have a question, though. I know that the new COVID bill came through yesterday, and my understanding from people at the state is it's going straight to the counties. Have we had any discussions with them at all? Because my understanding, they're going to get like $4 million this time or more. So, and that's not going through the state this time. It's going straight down.
Some information that we've seen is there is going to be some direct assistance to municipalities and counties and so on. The last we've seen from the league is that the city may also be a direct recipient.
That would be
And
good.
so until we see the final wording, and then of course, it has to go back to the House Representative side at this point, assuming that will all pass. There may be some additional assistance in there for us. So we're still monitoring that. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I'd like to also say that the second shot at the Y, that went off without a hitch. I appreciate all the hard work everybody put in to have that happen again. They had more people to give shots than they had people to show up to get shots. So I was like, I was in there, and everybody free. So that's good. And on that note, I'll say, I hope everybody stays vigilant, and I like Coach said, that, it's good to see everybody out and do these things, but we need to be careful because there's no point in doing it all if we're going to end up going right back downhill in a few weeks. So everybody remember, it didn't go away. It's better, but it's still around. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Well, I'd like to say that we still need to have patience, and we're almost at the end of this road with the COVID, and get these vaccines out, but we don't want to be spiking the ball on the 10-yard line. We've got to get over the 10-yard line. We don't want to go backwards. So I've had my vaccination, and I certainly encourage when you get your opportunity to get a vaccine, to get a vaccine. All right, and one more thing. In the next few days, it is very, very dry. I was out on the golf course today. It's going to get windier and windier, and I noticed that the public safety put out a warning about people burning things and fires getting away from us. So we want to, and I think they were talking about wind gusts up to almost 40 miles an hour by Wednesday. So everybody be mindful of that. So anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to open the meeting now for the public to speak. Come to the podium. You have 3 minutes, and please state your name and your address, and would anybody, you're welcome.
Good evening, Council. My name is James Spargo. I currently reside at 516 East Home. It's one of my rental properties that I have here in our good, fine city of Mexico. I come this evening, basically, I wondered also, while I'm talking for my 3 minutes, if I could, can I pass out anything to? These are just pictures. These pictures, some of you may find, you may notice something that you've noticed before. If you've ever traveled down East Home Street, Mr. Haig does because he drives by every morning on the bus. At the corner of McFarland and East Home Street, there's a house at 515 East Home. The house is owned by Danny Go. Danny's been a longtime resident of Mexico, and Danny has come down, has become sick here. He's having some respiratory problems or something here of the past few months, and he has had someone move into his house. And the person that moved into his house has been moving everything out of his house. So Danny, not saying anything bad about Mr. Go, I get along with him just great. I've owned that house for almost 20 years. Danny is a person that's a person to himself, and he doesn't bother anybody, anything like this. The new person that moved in is just taking everything out of the house and putting it in the yard. Well, I would encourage anybody and everybody to drive by and look at what an atrocity this is. I own property there. There's been one of the neighbors is here this evening also. We've been told by someone from the city that there are tickets being written. There's tickets being written, but they're not being written to the guy that's doing it. They're being written to Mr. Go, which is in a nursing facility here in town. What I'm wondering and I'm asking is what can be done about this? Because property values are going to go down. When it comes time for me to rent that house, because I don't plan on living there forever, no one's going to want to rent it. No one's going to want to rent across from the pictures that you all have seen. There's trash stacked this high. There's been a dumpster that's been dumped there that he is filling that dumpster, but he keeps bringing things outside, and the pile goes from this high to this high. And it just keeps rotating. Those pictures that I gave you were taken at different times, and if you look, the stacks are different. There's different garbage in every stack.
When did this begin?
This began in, the first picture that I took was of his vehicle in front of the house, and it was, I believe it was December 12th.
December?
Yes, of 2020. But it was a little bit before that. It was probably in November, and I didn't keep it completely. I'd say the lady Summer at the city could tell you exactly when that was because everybody's been complaining about it. Okay. But I just wanted to bring it to someone's attention and bring it out in the open. Was that my 3-minute bell? Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to bring that to light.
Can I ask a question? Because, so, this is Danny Go's house where this is happening?
Yes, sir.
He doesn't rent it. He owns this house.
He owns the house,
okay.
Correct.
So, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know, has anybody contacted Missouri Mental Health? Because it sounds like this guy is taking advantage of Danny.
I believe there has been people in the community that have done that.
Because that's, I mean, it sounds like that's something that needs to be addressed.
The home is in complete ruins. Yeah. Okay. You can tell, just drive by and tell that.
Ms. Fargo, your complaints are obviously credible, and what I would suggest you do, and I'm just pro tem tonight, what I suggest you do is meet with Mr. Slagle. Have you met with Mr. Slagle?
No, I have not. I've not discussed it.
And I'm sure he works things out really well with people.
Okay.
Jim, we're very familiar with this problem.
I'm sure you are.
And I'll only make a few comments just because, Chris, to your point as well, we've been in contact with Mr. Go. And he has a representative from the state in regard to health services and so on, senior services, and he's evidently given permission, which is just unbelievable. But anyway, that's what we have. And you're right. I mean, this person that lives here did this at another location a year ago that
Correct.
took all year to clean up, and finally got it done, and now it comes over here and is doing the same thing. We're very aware of it. We are following the legal process the best that we can with it. I even met today with staff in regards to, as council knows, we place money in the budget when it comes down to, when you get to the certain point that you can't get someone to clean it, we just go do it, and that's where the point we're at. So we're just going to have to go in and do what we can do and pull the items, pull everything that we can, and we have to hold it for 15 days, but it's literally junk.
It's trash.
It's trash.
It's
I mean,
just
from
it's
newspapers
trash.
to trash, to tin cans, to whatever.
Yes.
It's a mess.
Yes.
And there is no way I'd want to live next to it, and I understand your point.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
We're trying to do everything we can with it, and we're now down to the point we're just going to have to go remove it. And it's bad, and we don't. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate
Okay, if
that.
you'll stay, just
I will.
work with you, that'll be great.
Thank you very much.
Are we having any other comments?
I have a comment just to sort of tag on to what it says, not necessarily just that one. But I know there's been a couple of other locations in Mexico that we've had similar issues with, 2 or 3 of them, I think. But when they go to, do they go to court, or how do we handle that when they actually go to get mediated? Who actually takes care of that?
When the process starts, there is a legal process, and certainly Lou could comment about it. And it is a notification process, and you got to give them time to do it, and so on, and clean it up. And that does take time, and that does go to municipal court. And when we get to a certain point, like in this case, we're just done with trying to get them to take action where we just move in and take action. And that's where we're going to have to be in this case again with this particular situation. But Lou could certainly go over the process.
How effective is our municipal court in litigating? I know this is a different situation, but overall.
Sure.
Overall, we've had probably what I call reasonable success that way, and then there are some we just don't. And we probably get 80% of them cleared up that way. Would that be a fair statement, Rita? At least through the court process, and there's others we don't. So, yeah.
Sure. And any questions, just jump right in, okay? First of all, the municipal court is a division of the circuit court. So we have to follow the administrative orders of the Missouri Supreme Court. At the moment, the courts are shut down except for emergencies. And then, if we could get this heard, the best that we could do is get a fine, and then if they can't pay the fine, we ask them to keep coming back and develop a payment plan. So frankly, we've discovered that municipal court is not very effective, particularly in an instance like this. Now, we do have a provision under 26-169 of the city code where we can have entry onto the property. The city manager can direct the building code inspector or the code enforcement officer enter the property. If we want to go inside, I've got to go get a search warrant from the circuit court. We can also observe it from the street. If that gives us probable cause, we can do it. Now, you run into this problem, and this is the problem we had with a couple of other locations. Not only did we have junk thrown out into the yard, but we had building code problems. So when you're talking about a home and you're talking about repairing a home, requiring repairs to be done, we have to conduct a due process hearing. Now, we do that through what we call an administrative hearing. I actually file a petition setting forth what the violations of the building code are. I asked the city manager to appoint a hearing officer. We do that. We notify the owner and the tenant of the hearing. If they want to appear, they're more than welcome. Then the hearing officer has to prepare in writing a recommendation and findings based on the evidence that we present. Then if the city manager decides to adopt that, he can adopt it. Then we have to give 30 days notice of their right to appeal the administrative hearing to the circuit court. So you can see that's a pretty cumbersome process, but we eventually get it done, and that's what we've gotten done over on McFarland and on, I think it was Baker. And then we have that process going on right now on North Jefferson Street. Okay? This is junk in the yard. I'm not aware, have not been notified of any violations of the building code. So there's a procedure that the city manager can undertake under 26-169. We have to give notice to the owner and to the tenant. They've got 7 days to correct it. If they don't correct it, we can move in, load up all the junk, take it someplace and store it for 15 days. And if they don't claim it during that 15 days, then we can dispose of it. And that's the procedure that we most likely will use with regard to this particular property. Okay? Now, the one thing that would concern me is, to just be very honest, you know, I haven't seen Mr. Go in 10 or 15 years. If he's got a representative with from Senior Services or Department of Mental Health, we'd have to determine honestly if he could understand what we're asking to be done. If not, we'd have to ask that someone be appointed to accept that notice for him so that we could then proceed. So it's not as cumbersome as the other process, but at the same time, we've got to respect, frankly, the rights. And I'm sure if he were aware of this and could do something about it, he would.
Okay. Is that helpful to you?
Have they ever dumped that? Have they dumped that dumpster over there he's filling up? So as I drive by there, I just kind of notice, because more stuff gets put in there. I wonder why more stuff's not getting put in there, because there's stuff, it's a big dumpster. I'm wondering if, I wonder if someone needs to talk to him. Does he need help? As you said, we have a fund. Does he need help getting that dumped?
Steve, the last one of these we had, we actually, not at this address, but at a different address, we actually placed the dumpster. We actually loaded the dumpster. Somebody came out overnight, took everything out, threw it back out on the yard.
Out of the dumpster?
Out of the dumpster. So then, the second time, we had to ask public safety to help us so we could prevent that from happening. I mean,
Can I ask a question, sir?
Sure.
Was it on McFarland Street?
I would just assume
I
not.
was going to say, I believe it's the same person.
Okay.
It's the exact same person that's doing this.
I'm just saying, from the standpoint of, it's expensive to dump one of those. I mean, you get it
Yeah.
set, and you got, and what I'm saying is that, I mean.
And our only recourse is, then we get a tax lien against the property, which in this case would seem to me to be very unfair, because Mr. Go would then be responsible for that, and I'm sure if he knew this was going on, he would not approve of it.
So we talked to, he said he has a representative. Did we talk to the representative and explain the situation, and what did they say? There's nothing they could do? I can't imagine they agreed that this was a good idea.
I need to be careful what I say, but they confirmed that he basically gave permission, and they confirmed it.
So dealing with things like this in the past, it's not a court-appointed guardian, it's just somebody that's...
No. Chris, we have the ability to give notice to the tenant also. So this is probably a situation where we would prepare a notice and would ask public safety to serve it on the tenant, unable to do that, we can actually post it, put it outside on a pillar or a banister or something outside, and that's considered to be sufficient notice. So we can do that. We've done it before. It's just, if we had any cooperation at all, we wouldn't have to be doing it.
I'm with you, though. I can't believe Danny would let it happen if he knew it was happening. I just don't know that he knows.
As I say, I haven't seen him for 10 or 15
Well,
years.
the way I'm understanding, it's all his stuff is getting moved out of the house and thrown in wherever.
Okay, but
But he gave permission to...
do we know that? No. All we've got is hearsay. Okay, we've got some pictures. We've sent the code enforcement officer out. We have all that information. Okay, so now we can put something together. And one of the neighbors called me, talked to me about it, was very polite, and I explained to them everything we had to go through, so.
Okay. If that's okay. Anybody else want to come and speak this evening? Okay, if not, that closes our public part of our meeting, and I need a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to make and seconded to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay.
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.